How are you doing, green industry business leaders? This is episode number 14 of the Green Industry Profits Podcast, where we talk about how green industry companies can grow in a profitable way. In today's episode, we had a conversation with Heather Dirksen of Canopy Service Partners. We dive into her journey from the military to starting in the green industry, starting and growing plant healthcare divisions, focusing on what matters most in your business, and much more. And before we dive into this episode, just a quick note that this podcast is brought to you by Cycle CPA, a remote accounting firm that works specifically with green industry businesses. For more information, go to cyclecpa.com. And without further ado, let's get into today's episode. All right, super excited for this episode here. Heather Dirksen joins us, and Heather has been in the green industry, and she's I would say, an expert in a lot of aspects. And I think it's going to be a really, really cool episode here because she's going to dive into some specifics. But before we dive into that, Heather is the head of plant healthcare growth at Canopy Service Partners and also the founder of Ascend Tree Business Consulting. So thanks a lot for joining us here, Heather.
Thanks, Joe. Happy to be here. Good to see you again.
Nice to see you as well. And I guess before we dive in, and for those that may not already follow you on LinkedIn, and maybe have heard of you as well, if you don't mind, just giving a little background of yourself and maybe how you got into the green industry.
Yeah, I know people always wonder, like, how did you come from aviation to the green industry? It's such a weird transition, but yeah. So what happened is, straight out of high school, I joined the military and worked overseas afterwards as an air traffic controller. Did that for a while, ended up moving to Oklahoma City and got a job as air traffic controller here. That's where I'm currently at. And fell in love with a guy who ran a landscape company. And I was going through some medical stuff and couldn't fly for a living. I actually started flying at that time and transitioned from air traffic control to flying. And so I lost my medical certificate for a while. And so what I decided to do is just like ask my boyfriend if he needed someone to help him out in his office. And so I started doing that. And I love like operations, solving problems, and I love growth. Like growth is really important to me. I get bored with repetition. And so going into that position was a lot of repetition, and so I needed something to look forward to. So, I just talked to my boyfriend, who I ended up getting married to, and we grew. I talked to him about growing the business. There's ways that we could grow as quickly as possible. One of them was to buy a spray rig for lawn weed control and fertilization because he was subbing all of that out. So it was a great way for us to grow the business pretty quickly and just do a really great job of servicing our clients, which we took a lot of respect and pride in. My husband's prior military as well. He's still a Marine, I should say, because once a Marine, always a Marine, right? Yeah. So that's how I got into the green industry.
Very nice. And so going from the military then to the air traffic controller, I've heard that's a very stressful job. A lot of things going on. Is that true from your experience?
It is true. There's a lot of things going on. You have to be a quick thinker, think on your feet, but also be planning like 10 steps ahead. And really that is where what I do now is like all of the things that I've done, I feel like have prepared me in some way for what I'm doing. And I'm able to take the lessons I've learned over time and implement those into what I'm doing. And I love doing 10 things at once. But what I've learned over time as I've grown and become more mature is that, and mature in my leadership, is that, okay, you can do 10 things at once, but what are the top 3 things that you need to be doing and focusing on that are going to move you forward, move the company forward? Because we can all get busy in the day-to-day ops and forget about our quarterly rocks, which is something that we set every quarter, is what are the top 3 things that I can do in my position to grow the business? And I think I see so many people, kind of get sucked into the day to day. And that's why what I'm doing right now as the head of plant healthcare growth is to help people focus on what are those things that we need to be focused on right now to get over the humps that we need to in order to succeed.
Absolutely. And I would love to dive deeper into a lot of those items, but before we do, can you give a little overview of Canopy Service Partners, about that company, and kind of your role within that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So everybody asks if Canopy is a private equity company, and we're not private equity. We're owned by private equity. But what we do is we partner with companies throughout the nation. We are a nationwide company. And what we do is we partner with tree companies, great brands across the nation, and we provide all of their back office support, all of the things that they really dislike doing, like HR, accounting, or things that they just haven't invested in, like marketing or growing their plant healthcare company. So we have at Canopy, we just have a group of really great experts in their craft, and we provide everything that is necessary in order to allow our partners to focus on the areas of growth, especially organic growth, that they haven't had the time to focus on by taking away all the distractions.
Sure. No, awesome. And now there's a lot that goes into being the head of plant healthcare growth. There's a lot that goes into growing it, especially maybe if that division isn't already set up yet within a company. Do you mind kind of going through what is that first thing that you do, or kind of what's your approach when you get into a company and maybe try to grow that division?
Yeah, great question. So, I've learned so much. I've been with Canopy since, I guess, for about 9 months now. And every new partnership that takes place, I learn something new. Um, I've perfected the art of standing up a plant healthcare program. I would say not perfected, but I perfected the foundation of what it should look like. So developed a playbook, and the key piece to whether we're standing up a new program or we're growing a program is to focus on the relationships first. So what we do is when we partner with someone new, I meet with the team typically within 2 weeks of our new partnership. And what I've realized is that typically they want to meet the first day because they're so excited about plant healthcare. Haven't met with one partner yet that hasn't been excited about it and just ready to do what is necessary to either take it to the next level or get it started because they've wanted to get it started for years.
Very nice. And now for um, when it comes to growing that, is it focused more on the existing clients within those companies that you're basically cross-selling to, or is it maybe focusing on other clients within the market, or other potential clients?
Yeah, so it's organic growth first is what we focus on. But before we can even think about that, what we do is I meet with them, I go over kind of a list of items that need to be done and also like what their current makeup looks like. So who they have on their team, do they have a certified arborist? Do they have someone that and if they have a certified arborist, what is their level of knowledge? Do they know tree biology? Do they know soil health? um, what is their sales ability, and then do they have a plant healthcare technician already, or do they have someone on their team that would be interested in doing that? Do we need to recruit that person? Do they have an admin in the office? Basically what I've created is like a checklist for what their values are, with plant healthcare, because our values have to align, right? So first and foremost, are they eco-friendly? Do they have the same values that we do? Do they focus on soil health first? Do they are they targeted in their plant healthcare approach or their philosophy on plant healthcare? Some people just they have no philosophy or foundation for plant healthcare, and some people have a huge foundation. And we have to make sure that first and foremost our values align, and then kind of what their team makeup is, what their infrastructure looks like, as simple as do they have water, that on their property, running water. I mean, that's extremely important, and sometimes a blocker for a while. So we go through a checklist, and then we assign a, and align on like a time frame to stand up their plant healthcare program. So for us, it's either 45, 60, or 75 days. Sometimes it takes longer than that, but those are like the three tiers that we've kind of started with. And we align on those and we have clear objectives of what needs to be done and by when, and who that item is assigned to, right? And so we just meet weekly and go through those items every week or bi-weekly. We get into a rhythm, and then we just kind of work towards, our overall overarching goal, which we align on during our kickoff. So
Yeah.
there's a lot to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And for for those that may have an existing green industry business but don't offer the plant healthcare growth, or I'm sorry, the plant healthcare yet, what do you kind of see as some selling points or maybe reasons why they should consider that specific service?
It's the lowest hanging fruit they have. Like, they have a book of business already. They have customers who don't know about plant health care. They don't even know it exists usually. All you have to do is educate the market. And that sounds like a big deal, but you don't have to do it by, spending marketing dollars. You just have to educate your team. So the first person they talk to on the phone needs to know what a soil health care program is and why this customer should value it. And then your arborist that goes out there should just like continue that conversation. And then a team, if it's a tree trimming crew that you have that goes out, they should know about it too. They should be able to educate the customer on the health of the tree. So just setting that foundation of knowledge is extremely important throughout your team to really tap into organic growth.
Very nice. Yeah, and I feel like that education piece goes a long way with the clients. Especially I know even myself when I look for other services and different things like that in the market. I think it's always nice when a contractor not only comes to the property, maybe gives an estimate, but they go out of their way to educate you on aspects of maybe why they're thinking a certain way, why the quote is a certain way. So I think that's a great approach. Now, when it comes to building a team, I know that's an enormous part of this effort, Heather. How do you, if they don't already have the foundation for the right people, what do you look for within those maybe new candidates that maybe you're trying to have join the company?
Yeah, really good question. I mean, you can't do anything without the right people on the bus and the right seats, or you can't do it well, anyways. And you want to do plant healthcare well because you got one shot, you got one opportunity to take this to your current customer base and execute because you don't want to screw it up, or stall for your customers or your team because that's demoralizing and could give you a bad name. So you want to make sure you do it right. In order to do it right, you have to have the right people and the right seats. And so when I started with Canopy, I focused on our California, like Bay Area market. And I'll tell you what, that's a tough area to start a plant healthcare program. And as you could understand, like the regulations and just understanding the market in general, a new market, a new area for plant healthcare was tough. But what I did is just dove in head first into the recruiting process. We have recruiters on our team, but I knew that we needed to execute quickly. And so I just said, hey, I'm going to create what recruiting should look like for plant healthcare. And so, the process for us is dependent upon, what position we're trying to fill. But typically we use LinkedIn and Indeed. And for Indeed, we boost the posts to a certain level to where we're getting top candidates in the door. And so we talked to Indeed. They told us, they consulted with us on it and told us, hey, if you want to get top candidates and get their attention and be even on that first page, then you need to be spending at a minimum $70 per day per ad. And so because we're spending so much money on recruiting, we are quick. It's an investment, right? So we are very quick to get to that candidate. The candidate will apply if they look like I have a screening checklist for um, how to look through the candidate's resume, pick out what is, what's a top candidate. And then we will call them within 5 minutes of them applying. This is extremely, I mean, I've had people say, holy cow, I just applied. I'm like, I know, but you're looking and we want to fill this position with a top candidate. Do you have 5 minutes to talk to me right now? Or could we set up a time later? So again, like I'm trying to get to whether or not they're a good fit as quickly as possible. So I have a screening checklist and I ask questions that not necessarily just about their their experience. I can see that on paper, but I want to get to the core of who they are and what they're passionate about. So, you know, if they and we've gotten to this into such a process where I was able to hand it off to recruiting. So if they're a top candidate, we assign a number to each category. Like, what is their passion for the industry? One to three. One being, yeah, I enjoy working in the industry. Three being, I've wanted to do this since I was a kid, or I grew up in this business and I love it. So, passion being really important to us. And then asking them a question about, okay, who is your biggest role model growing up and why? And how are you like them? And how are you different? Asking them what, their current supervisor, if they've been with them for over a year, like asking them if I called that person, let's say if I called Todd, your boss, or your previous boss, and I asked him what your biggest strength is, what would Todd say? And why would Todd say that? And then again, your biggest opportunity for improvement during that time. And why would Todd say that? So, not just asking about experience is really important, but getting to the core of who they are is very, very important to the process.
Absolutely. And now when they get into the company, how does that onboarding process look like?
Yeah, so it's, every partner kind of has their own onboarding process, but what we've done is developed kind of like the baseline. If you're an arborist, this is the minimum of what we would want you to know in order to do your job really well. And the same thing for a plant healthcare specialist. So we have a 90-day plan for our plant healthcare specialist, and we want them to get their commercial applicator license within 60 days. So we wouldn't bring someone in the door and then say, hey, you need to get your applicator license within 60 days. That's clearly communicated ahead of time, and we qualify that they would actually be capable of getting it within that period of time.
Very nice. No, that's it's great to have that structure, and I think a lot of companies may have those systems and processes for certain aspects of the company, but I think on the recruiting and onboarding side, sometimes it is lacking. So it's great that you're there to help support the companies. Now, as for tech stack, when you're working with companies, I guess what are you seeing companies using, or I guess any recommendations in regard to some of the technology?
Oh, goodness. Yeah, there's technology for everything now, right? And getting your tech stack right is vitally important to your organization. We use for our CRM, we use Aspire. And what I love about Aspire is its ability to provide you accurate reporting and a dashboard. So all of our partners, they have their own CRMs and they're migrating to Aspire like over time. Right now, probably takes about 2 months. We're trying to perfect it to where, we're down to like 6 weeks, or sorry, not 6 weeks, but 3 weeks. And we've developed our own in-house training in order to support that. And the and we've gotten every key position has its own dashboard. So our sales staff, they are able to look at their KPIs every day. And then every week we have a sales meeting where we go over, what are the trends in the market? What are you seeing and how they're performing in relationship to their goal? And then same thing for our plant healthcare specialists. Like they know how well they're performing as well. So it's tech stack is extremely important. I would say if you're going to invest into technology, make sure that you're great at change management. So because it's tough on people in the organization, make sure that you vet out the technology that you're looking into. Talk to other people that use the system. Are you are you even trying to solve the right problem? So backing up and saying, are there other bigger problems that I need to be solving than this? Because that's some people just throw their money at technology and they think it's going to fix it, just like they do with consultants. And then they realize, oh, wait, I got to do some work here. And you might cause more problems than you resolve by investing in technology if not done right.
Yeah. No, I totally agree, Heather, and I think it's great to have you and the team at Canopy Service Partners there to help with things like the Aspire implementation. That it's a very robust software, so it's great to have people like you to help with that. And even going back to what you had mentioned previously in regard to kind of those quarterly touch points in regards to, okay, what are those top three things that the business needs to perform in order to kind of keep moving forward in the right direction? And as for the meetings, I know you had mentioned that a few times thus far. What do you kind of see as the right maybe frequency and maybe who to meet with in regard to maybe like the management team or maybe some of the other team members within the plant healthcare division of the company? I guess what does that typically look like?
Oh man, I'm obsessed with operating rhythm. It's used to be something that I didn't think about so much, but our CEO here at Canopy has really challenged me to set up an operating rhythm from scratch. And so I think like my operating rhythm for plant healthcare is to meet with our regional presidents once a week, and we go over the KPIs that are driving the results that we're looking for. And you know, what I recommend to everyone is like, don't inundate yourself with meetings. Like, figure out the top three things that you need to be doing or working towards as a company, and then get with your leadership team and figure out what that operating rhythm needs to look like. It's not the same for a $1 million company as it is like a $60 million company, obviously. But meeting weekly with your leadership team is vitally important to your success as an organization.
Yeah. No, no, absolutely. And I think it's important to also keep to that schedule too, because I think things can get really busy and it's one thing getting excited and kind of setting that frequency and scheduling it out, but the other thing is actually following through with it and even following through with the things that are discussed in those meetings as well. So
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Follow through. I would say as a leader, you can't have anyone on the leadership team that doesn't follow through with what they say they're going to do,
yeah,
because that trickles down to the rest of the organization. So if you guys commit to a meeting every week, you everybody better be there. And if you're not there, it better be communicated ahead of time.
yeah, absolutely. And I heard you mention KPIs. So key performance indicators. As for working within the plant healthcare division, do you mind sharing maybe any specific goals that you would recommend for companies to maybe focus on in regard to, maybe gross margin goals or net profit or overhead or maybe close ratio? Anything that you kind of like to go through, Heather?
Yeah, so I always recommend KPIs that track activity. And yes, you can track gross margin, you can track gross sales. But what I want to focus on, in a shorter period of time is the activity that's leading to those results. So I want to know how many proposals our plant healthcare, like arborists are proposing for like total proposals. So if and it better be at least 1 out of 5, plant healthcare proposals need to be plant healthcare, like to start with, because on every property, there's an opportunity for plant healthcare. Now, we don't oversell plant healthcare. I just want to make that clear. Like, we're not recommending a service that a customer doesn't need. We're not over fertilizing the soil. That is not our approach to plant healthcare at all. But you have to set like activity related KPIs in order to get the results that you need. So tracking that, tracking the average like dollar sale is important, because you want to continuously be improving that number over time. And then, you set a goal, like a sales goal for the month. How are we tracking towards that sales? How does that break down weekly? And how many proposals at what average sale do we need to make our goal weekly, daily, in order to achieve that?
Very nice. Yeah, it's great because I think a lot of companies can get caught up in just looking at the financial statements and trying to almost come up with goals, which is great. But like you said, Heather, I think that's a great point. Okay, let's focus on the actual metrics and the actual strategy that's going to get us there, and really trying to get granular in regard to those specific goals, which is awesome. Now, there's a lot of companies here that may be thinking about maybe even if it's not a plant healthcare division, just kind of growing their company, maybe adding on a new service line. And I'm sure you've come across situations and companies where the existing team has varying knowledge and expertise in regard to that service line, like in your scenario, plant healthcare. When is it worth to educate the current team, maybe even if they're not as up to speed on that given service line, versus kind of making that decision of, okay, we really need to actually hire someone to actually lead this division, even though it might be more of a hit up front to the budget, but it just makes sense. Is that something that you kind of come across sometimes within, when you're coming into new companies?
Yeah, absolutely. If, for instance, we have a more recent partner in Georgia and, you know, or sorry, in Alabama, and I went to visit with them, and they have 3 arborists on staff who don't know plant healthcare, have never sold plant healthcare. They've just done a ton of removals and trimming, and so, and they didn't have anybody in the organization who had done plant healthcare or had a knowledge about too much knowledge about soil health. And so and they had a huge opportunity, right? Because they're a huge business. And so there was a lot of opportunity, very little knowledge, but they wanted to start plant healthcare. And so to capitalize on that opportunity, we needed to really lead it,
Yeah.
to take it from 0 to 1 million within a couple of years. And there's other organizations where they have a little bit of knowledge here and there. And what we do is we just start small with them. Like if they haven't started plant healthcare, we just start with soil healthcare. We usually start a soil healthcare program because it's typically it's not you don't have to have a commercial applicator license. You don't have to have a pesticide business license. It's not as regulated, but what we do is we set the foundation for the program up as if they would be applying pesticides. So the level of safety that we implement, even just implementing a soil health program, is at a pesticide level because we want everybody to be ready when they are ready to move to the next step.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That's that totally makes sense. If a company basically looking at if there's a big ROI, especially if it's a larger company, it makes more and more sense to, maybe have someone come in and lead that division. So, um, and I'm sure there's that opportunity, like I said, even if it's not just within plant healthcare for some of the companies, but other additional service lines, because you already have that client, you already spent the marketing dollars to acquire that client, that you already have trust with that client, so it's a good opportunity for sure. It can definitely impact the bottom line, sometimes almost exponentially, because you don't have to add on a ton of additional overhead and stuff like that. So that's
Yeah.
that's awesome. And
Another thing
now,
that I would like to say is, can I just add something real quick? Um, don't underutilize your vendors. Your vendors, you're buying products from them. Like take it, take that relationship to the max. Okay. So if they have typically they're dealing with other tree companies, other landscape companies out there who have been through the same process. Maybe they've started a plant healthcare program. Okay, ask them, how they did it, or maybe ask them if they know someone that could be a plant healthcare champion because they have access to, and they talk to a lot of people. Maybe if they know of an arborist who is looking for an opportunity to take a company to the next level. So just communicate with your vendors because we've had huge support from our vendors, all the way to our arborist can text message one of our plant healthcare product providers a sick tree and get an answer because they have a team of arborist professionals who are in the area who could help them identify that pest or disease as quickly as possible. So leverage your resources.
Absolutely. And so you're basically saying, you can create a win-win situation with your vendors, just sharing information with them, kind of, having these conversations with them, almost similar to, your point in regard to why companies work with Canopy service partners, so that you can create a win-win situation there as well. Now, as for uh, Canopy service partners, what companies, for those that are listening out there that may see opportunities and maybe tired of working in some of the administrative side of the company, or maybe really want to focus on those aspects that are going to drive growth within their companies. What companies are right for Canopy service partners, or kind of like what's the ideal company that you guys look for?
Yeah, we're just looking for great brands, companies that align with us on values, like people first, is extremely important to us. I've been with companies who say it, but really don't mean it. So we really have to align on that first and foremost, and safety. We've gotten to the tail end of a partnership and did a safety inspection and realized, we just don't align on culture yet, but maybe we will a year or two from now when things change at their company. So I would say that, like, if they're a great brand within the market, if they're known to provide great service, then, we could potentially be a match no matter what the size of the company.
Awesome stuff. No, that's great. And um, any other items you'd like to leave the community here with, Heather? Any other advice or anything else?
Just go back and get your plant healthcare started. Don't wait. I know there's so many blockers out there that would stop you from wanting to do it or get started and then stop, but it is the highest margin work that you can do in the tree and landscape industry. And your customers love it. Your employees love it. You'll attract greater talent. You'll drive value at your company. So don't wait. The time is now.
Awesome stuff, Heather. And um, and I think a lot of companies, maybe even starting off on the maintenance side, um, or maybe some of those other services, it's a great option to definitely go for there. And Heather, what's the best way people can reach out if they have any questions, or if they had anything else, based off this conversation here?
Yeah, they can reach out to me on LinkedIn, Heather Dirksen on LinkedIn. If you look up my name, Dirksen. You can reach me on LinkedIn. You could send me an email at heather.dirksen@canopysps.com. And it's SPS like service partners. You can, just reach out to me either of those two ways. And, I'm not taking on any clients for my consulting business because I'm focusing on, Canopy, but I can always provide free advice. So please reach out to me. People do it all the time, and I give free advice because that has allowed me to give back to the people that have done the same for me.
Awesome stuff, Heather. And thank you for everything you do for the industry. And I enjoyed the conversation here.
Yeah, me too, Joe. And congratulations again on the new addition to your family. I'm really looking forward to continuing to follow your guys' success and the growth of your company and your family.
Thanks a lot, Heather. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Joe.